You know that feeling of being underestimated? Well, Judit Polgár didn't just feel it, she turned it into a weapon. She figured out that the biggest trap her opponents ever fell into wasn't some brilliant move on the chessboard. Nope, it was their own deep-seated belief that she just couldn't win. So today, we're going to break down what's called the Polgar Rule. It's basically a masterclass in how to take the world's low expectations of you and turn them into your single greatest strategic advantage. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to jump right into the thick of it, the psychological trap of underestimation. Then we'll rewind to see how she was forged in isolation. After that, we'll get into her philosophy of force and the system she built for total dominance. We'll see how she rewrote the rules of the game. And finally, we'll talk about how you can find your own Polgar move. Let's get into it. All right, Section 1, the trap of underestimation. Our story doesn't start with a quiet practice game. No, it starts smack in the middle of a psychological war, a battle of perception where the world's best chess player had already written her off. Women, by their nature, are not chess players. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't just some random troll on the internet. This came from Garry Kasparov himself, the king, the undisputed titan of the game. He wasn't just sharing an opinion, he was stating what the entire chess world believed was a cold, hard fact. That was the wall Judit Polgár was facing. Okay, so picture this. The year is 2002. Judit Polgár is sitting right across the board from Garry Kasparov. She's had to listen to comments like that for years. But now, here he is. And you've got to understand her mindset here. She's not looking for an apology. She doesn't care about his validation. She's there for one reason and one reason only, to win. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the world's belief. They saw her as this rare exception, this novelty act who was, eventually going to fail against the real top players. But her belief? Totally different. She knew that talk is cheap. The only way to answer doubt is with pure, undeniable excellence, period. And this right here is what we call the Polgar Rule. It's actually a pretty brilliant strategic idea. It's the belief that your opponent's arrogance is a trap, but it's a trap they set for themselves. See, when they underestimate you, they get lazy. They become blind. They don't prepare for your A game because, frankly, they don't think you have one. And that is the exact moment you hit them with relentless tactical aggression. But how did she even develop this kind of killer instinct? Well, for that, we need to go back, way back. Section 2. Forged in isolation. So you have to ask, right? How does a young woman from Hungary get the sheer mental strength to stare down the world champion without blinking? Well, it all started with a childhood that was, let's just say, highly unconventional. Long before she was known as the Queen of Chess, Judit was basically the subject of a pretty radical experiment. See, her father was a psychologist, and he had this wild idea. He believed that geniuses aren't born, they're made. He thought if you just provided intense, focused training from a super young age, you could create a genius in any field. So he pulled his daughters out of school to prove his theory. And yeah, the whole world was watching, and a lot of them were pretty much waiting for it all to blow up in his face. So what did this experimental childhood actually look like? Well, for starters, she and her sisters were homeschooled. But this wasn't your typical homeschooling. We're talking 8 to 10 hours of study a day. They were surrounded by a library of literally thousands of chess books, and all the while, the official chess world was trying to push her into women's-only tournaments. But here's the thing. That isolation, it became her forge. It's where she hammered out this incredible tactical logic, realizing that if the world wasn't going to accept her, she'd just have to become so good they couldn't possibly ignore her. Section 3, the philosophy of force. So this crazy upbringing didn't just teach her how to play chess, it gave her an entire philosophy on how to win when you are the ultimate outsider. And here's where it gets really interesting. She had this huge realization. When people underestimate you, they get lazy. They let their guard down. They don't expect a real fight. So her new rule became super simple. Force the tension. No playing it safe. No waiting around. Just constant, relentless pressure. Attack, attack, attack. This strategy has a name. Asymmetric preparation. And look, this isn't just doing your homework. This is about preparing in a way that is so sharp, so aggressive, that it forces your opponents to solve problems they never ever expected to see on the board. It's like they studied for a math test and you just handed them a philosophy exam. You're not playing their game anymore. You're making them play yours. In the foundation for all of this, a belief she called uncompromising merit. Think about it. The world was constantly trying to put a ceiling on what she could do just because she was a woman. They wanted her to play in a separate league, to accept a lower bar, and she just refused. She had this disciplined belief that the only ceiling that actually exists is the one you agree to live under. Simple as that. Section 4, a system for dominance. Okay, so having a cool philosophy is great, but Polgar was a master at turning that philosophy into a real daily system. So how did she actually do it? Let's break it down. Her system basically came down to 3 key steps. Step 1, pattern saturation. Step 2, combat vision. And step 3, high-stakes opens. So what exactly is pattern saturation? Get this, it's solving over 500 tactical puzzles every single day. This isn't about memorizing moves. It's about training your brain so deeply that you start to see the winning moves instantly, almost intuitively. It's like her brain was just completely saturated with the very patterns of winning. And then there's the habit of the high-stakes open. I mean, the discipline here is just incredible. The easy route for her would have been to just dominate the women's championships, but she refused. She chose to compete only in the most brutal open tournaments. She was constantly stress testing her skills against the absolute best in the world. Because she didn't care about easy titles, she cared about being the best, period. And the payoff for this insane system? At just 15 years and 11 months old, she became the youngest Grandmaster in history. She didn't just break the record, she shattered a record that had been held for over 30 years by the one and only Bobby Fischer. That radical experiment? Yeah, it worked. It had created a prodigy who was coming for the throne. Section 5, rewriting the rules. Look, this wasn't just a personal win for her. Her success sent a shockwave through the entire world of chess, and it completely rewrote the rules of what everyone thought was possible. I mean, just think about the transformation. She went from being the subject of this radical experiment to becoming the Grandmaster who broke Bobby Fischer's record and beat Garry Kasparov. It's just an incredible arc. Let's just run down the timeline real quick. At age 15, she's the youngest Grandmaster ever. In the 90s, she cracks the world top 10, something everyone said a woman could never do. Then, in 2002, she takes down Kasparov. Her legacy? She completely destroyed the myth that some things are just off limits for certain people. She proved that performance is the only thing that truly matters. Section 6, finding your Polgar move. So, her story is awesome, but it's more than just a history lesson, right? It's a blueprint. It's a guide for anyone who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong. And this is where we bring it all back to you. So I really want you to think about this. Where is your board? What's that project, that career path, that goal, that room you walk into where you just know you're being underestimated, where people think they already have you figured out? Because guess what? That's not a weakness. That's your arena. That's your biggest opportunity. So here's the framework. It's pretty simple. First, find that room where you are underestimated. Know where your battlefield is. Second, commit to that ruthless asymmetric preparation. You gotta outwork, outstudy, and outprepare everyone, especially the ones who don't even see you as a threat. And finally, and this is key, let your results be the ultimate argument. Because at the end of the day, that is the biggest lesson from Judit Polgár's entire life. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince anybody. Your performance does the talking for you. Excellence truly is the ultimate argument, and your results, well, your results are the code for your power.